I wasn't supposed to notice her that way. That's how it starts. In the quiet part of an afternoon, dust floating in the sunlight, the air thick with the scent of paper and floor polish. She stood in the doorway of the office storage room, sleeves rolled to her elbows, hair a little messy like she'd stopped trying halfway through. "Could you give me a hand?" she asked. Simple, ordinary, but her voice had a calm weight to it, the kind that pulls you closer before you realize you've moved. "My boss's wife, Clara." She pointed at a stack of old archive boxes. I said, "Sure," and stepped closer, careful not to look too long. Still, it was impossible not to. The light hit her just right, soft along her cheek, tracing the faint line that only appears when she's thinking too hard. "You don't have to do them all," she said, bending to pick one up. "I don't mind." The first thing I noticed wasn't her perfume. It was how she moved, deliberate, but with this quiet uncertainty, like she wasn't used to being watched. I lifted a box and our hands brushed, a brief static shock of skin against skin. She froze for a second. I pretended not to notice, but every nerve in my body did. "You're stronger than you look," she said with a small, almost teasing smile. "Guess that's a compliment." Her eyes lingered on me a moment too long. "It is." We stacked the boxes in silence. Or maybe it just felt like silence because of how loud everything else was. The sound of her breathing, the scrape of cardboard, the low hum of the old ceiling fan. She adjusted her blouse once, like she suddenly remembered I was there. I looked away. The air between us shifted, not heavy, but aware. When we finished, she leaned against the desk, catching her breath. "You work too hard," she said. "You say that like it's a bad thing." Her lips curved, tired but warm. "Maybe it is, for someone your age." I wanted to ask what she meant. Instead, I just said, "I don't really know how to stop." That made her look at me, really look, like she was searching for something, or maybe seeing something she hadn't expected. The office clock ticked louder than it should have. She pushed a strand of hair behind her ear, her fingers brushing her neck. My eyes followed before I could stop them. She caught me. Didn't say anything, just gave a quiet, knowing look that sent my thoughts scrambling. "You can take a break now," she said softly. "Only if you do too." Her smile faded just slightly. I don't really know how to stop either. Something about the way she said it, quiet, almost apologetic, made my chest tighten. I wanted to fill the silence, but I didn't. She reached for another box, smaller, tucked behind the desk. Her hand trembled slightly as she lifted the lid. Inside were framed photos, yellowed papers, something wrapped in tissue. She unfolded it. A silk scarf, faded red. "This used to be my favorite," she murmured, more to herself than to me. I stepped closer before thinking. Close enough to smell her. Faint vanilla, paper dust, something older beneath it. She looked up. Our eyes met. No one said anything. Then the sound of a door opening down the hall. She straightened too fast. The scarf slipped from her hand, brushing against my wrist as it fell. I didn't move. Neither did she. Only the sound of footsteps came closer, and the air between us tightened, stretched, like something about to break. The hallway door had closed again, but neither of us moved right away. Clara stood with her hand still half raised, as if she might call me back, then lowered it and exhaled. "Sorry," she said quietly. "Didn't mean to startle you." "You didn't." I bent to pick up the scarf, careful not to look directly at her. The silk was softer than I expected, warm from her touch. I handed it back, and she took it, fingers grazing my palm longer than they needed to. "Thank you," she said, eyes down. That was the thing about her. Every word carried a second meaning she never said aloud. We ended up walking together to the back office, where she kept the old company files. The corridor smelled faintly of coffee and rain from an open window. "My husband used to run all this himself," she said, half smiling. "Now I just keep the paper trail from falling apart." I didn't know what to say, so I asked, "He travels a lot?" She hesitated. "He works late." Then softer, "Always has." Something in her voice shut the rest of the world out. I heard the scrape of a chair leg, the slow slide of her breath as she sat. I'd never thought of her as lonely until that moment. I sat across from her. The desk between us was cluttered, receipts, pens, a mug with a faded logo. She turned it absently, avoiding my eyes. "You're in college, right?" she asked. "Graduated last year. Still so young." The words slipped out like she hadn't meant to say them. "I don't feel it." Her lips curved slightly. "That's what youth sounds like." Silence again. A comfortable one this time. She reached to hand me a folder, and her fingers brushed mine. Not an accident. Not exactly. I held it a second longer than I should have. Later, when I stood by the window waiting for the rain to stop, she joined me. The glass fogged with our breaths. "You shouldn't always say yes when people ask for help," she said. "Why not? It gives them permission to forget you have your own life." Her reflection in the window looked softer, younger somehow. "Does that happen to you?" I asked. She shrugged. "Sometimes I let it." The way she said "let" made something shift between us. A quiet understanding neither of us wanted to name. When I turned toward her, she was closer than I'd realized. Her perfume was faint, but it filled the space. She reached up to fix the collar of my shirt, fingers trembling slightly, eyes focused on the task as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "There," she murmured. I didn't breathe. Her hand stayed a second longer on my shoulder. Light, uncertain, unwilling to leave. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance. She looked up at me, lips parting like she wanted to say something but thought better of it. Then she stepped back. But even as she moved away, her touch stayed. Right there, a small ghost of warmth that didn't fade. And for the first time, I realized I didn't want it to. The storm didn't pass. Stayed low thunder outside, the kind that makes walls hum. Clara stood by the file cabinet, pretending to search for a document she'd already found. I stood beside her, close enough to feel the shift of her breath when she moved. Neither of us spoke. The rain hit the windows harder. Somewhere down the hall, a phone rang, unanswered. Finally, she said, "You should go before it gets worse." I didn't move. "You'll still be here?" She gave a small, humorless smile. "I'm always here." The silence after that one landed differently, not comfortable, not tense, just full. She turned toward me. "You're quiet today. Maybe I'm trying not to say the wrong thing." Her eyes flicked up, then down. "That's dangerous. The quiet ones are the ones who think too much." I wanted to tell her she was the one I was thinking about, but the words stayed in my throat. Her hand brushed the drawer handle, but she missed and touched my wrist instead. For a heartbeat, she didn't pull back. And then the office door opened. We both froze. A man's voice, my boss, echoed faintly from the hall. "Clara? You still in here?" She stepped away fast, whispering, "Don't move." Her tone wasn't sharp, just steady, like she'd done this before. I stood still. My pulse was so loud it drowned out the rain. He poked his head in, smiling absently. "Oh, there you are. I thought you'd gone home." "Just sorting invoices," she said smoothly, holding up a random file. Her voice was calm, practiced. He glanced at me. "Appreciate the help, kid." I nodded, forcing a smile. "Anytime, sir." He didn't notice anything. Didn't see the small flush on her neck, or how I still hadn't unclenched my hands. When he left, the door clicked shut too softly. Clara stayed perfectly still for a few seconds, then exhaled long and slow. "That was close," I said, voice barely above a whisper. She gave a small laugh, shaky. "You think?" I stepped toward her. She didn't back away this time. "You're shaking," I said. "Am I?" She looked down at her hands, then at me. "Maybe I'm just tired." But she wasn't tired. She was terrified. And so was I. "Clara, don't," she said quickly. "You don't have to say it." I didn't. But the distance between us had already disappeared. Her hand lifted, stopped midair, then rested on my chest. Just once. Just long enough to feel my heartbeat under her palm. "This is wrong," she whispered. "Then why?" "Because it doesn't feel wrong." She looked up, eyes glinting in the dim light. The space between us narrowed, breath against breath, silence trembling with everything unsaid. And then her phone buzzed on the desk. A text. The sound broke everything open. She stepped back fast, nearly knocking over a mug. I caught it before it fell, set it down. Neither of us spoke. But as she turned away, her voice barely carried. Next time, don't stay so close. I should have agreed. I didn't. It was after hours again. The office sat in that strange, echoing quiet. Computers off, hallway lights dimmed. The world outside soaked in the smell of wet pavement. I hadn't meant to stay late. Neither had she. But we both did. She was at her desk, reading something that didn't seem to matter. I was supposed to be filing reports. Neither of us was really doing anything. Still here, I said softly. She looked up, the corner of her mouth twitching. Still avoiding the rain? Maybe. You could have gone home hours ago. I could have, I said. You too. That made her pause. She set her pen down, leaned back slightly. You think I stay here for fun? I think you stay here so you don't have to go somewhere else. Her eyes flicked up sharply. For a moment, I thought I'd gone too far. Then, quietly, she said, You notice too much. Only when it's you. The air changed right then, heavy, electric. She looked away first, brushing her hair off her face, but her hand trembled just slightly. You shouldn't say things like that, she said. Why not? Because I'll start believing them. Her voice cracked just enough to make me forget every reason not to move closer. I walked around the desk. She didn't stop me. When I reached her side, she stayed seated, eyes on the window, pretending to read the reflection of city lights in the glass. I shouldn't be here, I whispered. But you are. Her words were barely sound, more breath than voice. She turned toward me, and I saw the tiny shiver in her jaw, the way her lips parted as if she wanted to say stop, but couldn't. I lifted my hand, slow enough to give her time to pull away. She didn't. My fingers brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Her breath caught, a small sound that broke something inside me. Clara? She closed her eyes, just once, like she was gathering every reason to resist, and letting them go one by one. This can't happen, she whispered. I know, but I didn't step back. Her hand found mine. Not a grab, just a gentle hold, like she wanted to memorize it before it was gone. Then the sound came, a knock. Soft, hesitant, but enough to make her flinch. We both froze. A woman's voice from outside. Clara? You left your phone in the car. Her assistant. Clara let go of me instantly, stood, smoothed her blouse like nothing had happened. I'll be right there, she called, her voice steady again, practiced. When the footsteps faded, she turned back. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes wild, uncertain. This has to stop, she said. But when she passed me on the way to the door, her hand brushed mine again on purpose. And this time she didn't look back. The next morning, she didn't look at me. Not once. She passed me in the hallway with that professional half-smile she gave everyone. Polite, distant, safe. But her hand trembled slightly when she handed me a folder, and her perfume lingered longer than usual. I told myself not to read into it. I failed. By noon, the office was busy again. Phones ringing, printers whining, people laughing too loudly. She stayed in her office, door half shut. I caught glimpses of her through the glass, her posture too straight, her jaw too tight. Something had shifted overnight. When I finally knocked on her door, she didn't look surprised, just tired. Come in, she said. I closed the door behind me. You're avoiding me. I'm being careful. Same thing. Her lips pressed together. You don't understand what's at stake. Then tell me. She hesitated, then reached for her desk drawer. I thought she was looking for papers. Instead, she pulled out her phone, turned the screen toward me. A text thread. My name. I didn't need to read it all, just the preview. Your assistant saw something last night. She told him. My chest went tight. He knows. She nodded. He asked me about you this morning. What did you say? I lied, she said quietly. I told him you were helping with the invoices, that it was nothing. Our eyes met. It wasn't relief I saw in hers. It was fear. He'll find out, I said. I know. Her voice broke on the word. He always does. Something in the way she said it made me realize this wasn't the first time she'd hidden something. Maybe not like this, but something close. I took a step closer. You don't have to lie for me. She shook her head. It's not you I'm lying for. Her eyes glistened. Not tears, just the shine that comes before them. I've spent half my life pretending I don't need anything, that I'm fine being invisible. And then you... She stopped, looked away. Her hand went to her throat like she was holding the rest inside. Clara, I said softly, you don't have to finish that. I do, she whispered, because it's already too late not to. I reached for her hand. She let me take it, but her fingers were cold, trembling. This isn't fair to you, she said. Then make it fair. She looked up, eyes wet now. You don't know what it costs. I don't care. The words came out harsher than I meant. Too real. She stood so quickly her chair hit the wall. You think this is some secret worth keeping? No, I said. I think it's something worth not wasting. That stopped her. Her breathing quickened. Chest rising, falling, the space between us pulsing with everything neither of us should feel. Then she stepped toward me. Just once. Close enough that I could feel the warmth of her breath at my neck. Then you'd better be sure, she whispered. Because once you start something with me, there's no pretending it didn't happen. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. She turned off the light. The room fell into soft shadow. And for the first time, she didn't tell me to leave. The office felt smaller that night. No storm, no noise. Just the buzz of the fluorescent light and the sound of her footsteps pacing the carpet. She'd asked me to stay after everyone left. No reason given. None needed. I stood near the window, hands in my pockets, watching her move. Every few seconds she'd stop, as if she might finally say what she was holding back. Then she'd turn again, restless. Clara, I said quietly. She froze, then turned toward me. Her eyes looked different, not guarded this time, just tired. Real. I told him, she said finally, about last night. My stomach dropped. You told your husband? Not everything. She gave a small, broken laugh. Just enough. Why? Because I'm done hiding. Her voice trembled, but there was something fierce beneath it. And because you deserve someone who doesn't look at you like a mistake. I took a step forward. You don't get to decide what I deserve. She smiled sadly. I already did. I moved closer. Then tell me it meant nothing. She didn't. She just stared, lips parting, breath shaking. Say it, I whispered. Her hand came up instead, resting on my chest, fingers clutching the fabric of my shirt like she needed to feel something solid. I can't, she said. The air between us thickened, charged. Every reason to stop dissolved into the quiet sound of our breathing. Clara, I said, softer this time. She looked up. For a second, the world narrowed to just her eyes. That deep, endless mix of fear and want. If we do this, she said, everything changes. Maybe it already has. She closed her eyes, exhaling slowly, then stepped closer. My heart stuttered. I could feel the warmth of her body, the faint scent of rain still clinging to her hair. I don't know how to stop this, she whispered. Then don't. She let out a shaky breath, part laugh, part surrender. Her forehead brushed against mine, soft, accidental, and I felt her tremble. This is wrong, she murmured again. Then let it be wrong, I said. Just this once. We stood there, suspended between want and consequence, the space shrinking until words stopped making sense. Her hand rose to my neck, fingers tracing the line of my jaw, slow, deliberate. My own hand found hers, holding it there. No kiss, just a silence that said everything we couldn't. Then she pulled back. Barely an inch, but it felt like miles. Her eyes met mine, steady now. You'll leave after tonight, she said quietly. I'll make sure you're transferred. Somewhere you can start over. I shook my head. And you? She smiled, faint but real. I'll finally stop pretending I'm fine. The words hit harder than anything else. She touched my face once more. A small, final gesture, and then stepped away. The light flickered above us, catching the tear she didn't wipe away. And that was the moment I knew. We hadn't lost each other. We'd just reached the point where loving each other meant letting go. It had been weeks since that night. The office had gone back to its usual rhythm. Phones ringing, doors closing, the same small talk in the hallways. She was still there, of course. So was I, but not in the same way. They'd transferred me to another branch, just like she said. The last email came from her, short and professional. Good luck on your next project. Thank you for everything. It should have ended there. It almost did. But endings have a way of circling back when you least expect them. It was late again when I saw her next. Not in an office, not under those humming lights. It was at a cafe near the train station, nearly empty. The smell of espresso hanging in the air. She was sitting alone, reading. For a second, I thought about walking past her, pretending I hadn't seen. But then she looked up and smiled. The same tired, quiet smile that had started everything. Hi, she said softly. Hi. No awkwardness. Just recognition. A little surprise, maybe, and something gentler beneath it. Did you get settled at the new job? She asked. Yeah, I said. It's different. She nodded, eyes dropping to her cup. Different can be good. Sometimes. The silence that followed wasn't heavy anymore. Just real. The kind that sits between people who've seen the worst of themselves and are still standing. Are you okay? I asked. She hesitated, then said, I think I am. For the first time in a while. She glanced out the window, the fading sunlight catching in her hair. She looked younger, or maybe lighter. I used to think, she said quietly, that what happened between us was a mistake. And now, her eyes met mine steady. Now I think it was necessary. You reminded me what it felt like to be seen. I didn't trust myself to speak. I just nodded. She reached across the table, fingers brushing mine. Not by accident. Not this time. You should know, she said. I don't regret it. My hand turned, palm up, catching hers. I don't either. The cafe was quiet except for the clink of a spoon somewhere behind us. She leaned slightly closer, her voice barely a whisper now. Do you ever think about that night? Every day, I said. But it's different now. How? It doesn't hurt anymore. She smiled, small, true, peaceful. Good. Her thumb traced the back of my hand once, slow. Not an invitation, not a promise. Just a quiet acknowledgement of everything we'd carried and finally set down. Outside, the rain had started again. She stood, grabbed her coat, and waited. I rose beside her. At the door, she turned to me, close enough for one last touch. Her hand rested on my cheek, warm and steady. I'm glad we met, she said. Me too. Then she kissed my forehead, soft, lingering, and stepped out into the rain. I watched her go until she disappeared around the corner. And for the first time, it felt like an ending that didn't have to hurt. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?